Hi everybody, this is Justine, the Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Manager, and I'm here today with Angela Smith, who is a professor in language and culture. And I've asked Angela to join me because I'm putting together a series of videos around being an ally, and I see Angela as a significant and active ally. And she sits on a couple of our staff networks, the LGBTQI plus and also the BAME staff network, and is somebody who supports the work that I do enormously. She's always very visible, always very present, and always very there. So I wanted to explore this a little bit with Angela. So welcome, Angela.
Hello, Justine.
So my first question is, why are you an ally to those two communities?
I think you can't really separate any of the EDI, even though it's a terrible acronym at times. You can't separate them because there is so much intersection between them. People are discriminated against on all levels if they aren't conforming to a white heterosexual, predominantly male, and Western European idea of how to be someone. And I became interested in gender as an undergraduate, having not realised that this discrimination was something I was living through when it comes to feminism. And then you suddenly realise that 40, 50 years after we started to look at equal rights in the 1960s and 70s, we still have to now. There is still a huge amount of discrimination and a lack of understanding that we come across every day within society. So being on these staff networks is a multi-layered approach to being informed, learning new things, meeting people who come from a different perhaps background and experience, but also seeing what we can do to help.
So what is an ally? What would you say they do or should do in order to support those communities?
I think as an ally, what I try to do is be supportive and to try and see from another person's point of view what the world is. Because I see the world from very much my lived experience, but that doesn't mean to say that that is the only view of the world there is. And seeing the world from a different point of view is absolutely essential to being able to support people, and particularly when it comes to other members of staff and our students. So I think being an ally is very much part of that.
I want to ask you a question there about the students. I know we didn't necessarily prep this as a question, but it is interesting. How does that help your work or inform your work as an academic, being involved with those agendas?
I think one of the things with LGBT plus is that we have increasing numbers of students who identify in that way as being non-binary in particular. And this is something that has only really started to become apparent in the last 10 years or so. And that is really important because, for example, students who are trans might be using the university, that movement from school to university, as being that moment where they fully embrace their identity. And we've come across examples of students who have registered under their dead name and are appearing at university with their name that they have chosen as their name in their trans identity. And our records don't match. And if we don't understand that this is offensive to refer to them by their dead name, then we are at risk of really damaging that student's experience at university.
That's such a really wonderful example to explain why it's important to be engaged with the work. Thank you, Angela. So in terms of well, one of the purposes of doing this video is to try to encourage people who wouldn't ordinarily get engaged with the subject of EDI to understand why they should or why it would be of benefit. So what would you say to people that are maybe a bit neutral about the subject? Why do you feel that they should get involved with raising their awareness and engaging with some of the maybe the workshops, if nothing else, not necessarily the networks?
Yes, I think one of the reasons I so much enjoy getting involved with these staff networks is because I, as an academic, or living in the academic part of the university, I find that there is such a narrow perspective on LGBT and certainly race issues. And meeting people from around the university, there is no hierarchy within that group. And it's really brilliant for getting to know people from across the university and all of the different services and even different campuses that we have, in a way that really makes sure that we are performing as a university. So if you don't get to go to one of these EDI groups, you don't get to go to one of these staff networks, then you are missing out on those opportunities of meeting people from across our different campuses.
Angela, that's absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much for joining me today.
A pleasure as always, Justine.
And I love your sweatshirt.
It's actually not me being feminist and fabulous, it's the Fawcett Society, but you have to read the small print.
I don't want to stare at you now, so I won't do that, but thank you very much.
Okay, Justine.